What if you're not actually stuck in your life, but caught in an invisible loop you keep recreating every single day? Most people wake up thinking today will be different, but they're collapsing the same quantum waves, broadcasting the same emotional frequencies, and wondering why nothing ever changes. Here's what nobody tells you. The reason your breakthrough hasn't happened isn't because you lack potential or clarity. It's because you're still vibrating from a frequency built in your past, and you're expecting your future to somehow respond to it. This video will show you exactly where that loop lives, how it keeps regenerating itself, and most importantly, how to become so vibrationally incompatible with your old pattern that the quantum field has no choice but to deliver something entirely new. By the end, you'll understand why trying harder keeps you trapped and what actually sets you free.
There's a place deep in the desert where travelers who've gotten lost swear they've been making real progress, only to discover their own footprints, leading them in circles. It wasn't the landscape that deceived them. It was something deeper, their internal compass, their sense of direction coming from within. And what if I told you that most people live their entire lives exactly this way? You're not stuck. You're repeating. You wake up every morning inside the same field of probability. You collapse the same quantum waves. You project the same emotions into the field. You attract the same timelines. And then you call it normal. You call it life. You call it just how things are. But what if normal is simply familiar? What if the only reason you haven't broken through into something new isn't because you lack the ability, but because you keep broadcasting a frequency that was created in your past, and you're somehow expecting your future to respond to it? Let's disrupt something deep right now. Real change doesn't happen just because you want it. Change happens when you become incoherent with the old pattern. So incoherent, so vibrationally incompatible with who you were yesterday, that the quantum field literally has no choice but to deliver something new. But here's the paradox. The part your logical mind doesn't want to hear. The more you try to break out of the loop through sheer effort, the more you actually reinforce it. Because effort, when it's coming from a place of fear, doubt, and lack, is just another way of repeating the exact same energetic signal you've always been sending. It's like running full speed on a treadmill with virtual reality goggles on, believing you're sprinting toward your dreams, when in reality, you're just burning yourself out on a floor that never actually moves. Pause for a second. Notice what's happening in your body right now. Maybe there's a tightness in your chest, a restlessness sitting in your stomach. That's not random. That's your nervous system recognizing the loop, sensing the pattern. Because this isn't just a mindset problem. This is a bioenergetic program running beneath your conscious awareness. Every thought you've repeated for years, every emotion you've recycled since childhood, every belief system you adopted unconsciously from your environment, they've formed neural pathways in your brain, chemical patterns in your body, electromagnetic signatures in your field. And these signatures, they act like codes. Instructions feeding directly into the quantum field, saying, repeat this reality again and again and again. Here's where the science meets the soul. According to quantum mechanics, particles exist as probability waves until they're observed. The moment we observe them, we collapse that wave into one single outcome, one fixed reality. Now imagine you're observing your life every single day, not through pure awareness, but through filters made of fear, old memories, unresolved trauma, and a fixed identity you built years ago. What kind of wave do you think you're collapsing every single day? Exactly the same one you collapsed yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that. And your brain, being a prediction machine, starts filling in the gaps automatically. It doesn't show you what's actually possible. It shows you what's likely, what you've seen before, what matches your past experience, what fits comfortably inside the loop you've been living. This is why some people feel like they're living different versions of the same year for decades. Same struggles, same patterns, just different faces and places. But here's the real kicker. The loop disguises itself as progress. You switch jobs, but you still feel undervalued. You enter new relationships, but somehow the same patterns repeat themselves. You move to different cities, but you bring the same internal chaos with you, because wherever you go, your frequency follows. And the field, being completely neutral, responds to frequency, not fantasy. Let's go deeper. Neville Goddard said something profound. He said, "You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And who you are vibrationally is the sum total of your emotional states, your focus, and your unconscious identity." So if you are the loop, if you've become identified with it, how could you ever escape it from the inside? You can't. Not while you're still identifying as the thinker of the same thoughts. Not while you're feeling the same emotional weather every morning. Not while you're reacting to life instead of observing it. Here's the twist, and it changes everything. The loop doesn't break when you try harder. It breaks when you become aware that you're inside it. That moment, that pure moment of observation without judgment, the instant where you catch yourself mid-pattern and don't react to it, that's a quantum anomaly. It's a vibrational rupture. A crack in the program. And in that rupture, new timelines become available. But most people miss it. They miss it completely because they're too busy trying to fix their life from within the same frequency that created the problem in the first place. They're trying to think their way out of a vibrational maze, trying to manifest abundance with a nervous system stuck in survival mode, trying to visualize freedom while radiating fear. And that right there is the invisible wall, the vibrational feedback loop where the field keeps saying, "You haven't changed, so why should your reality?" Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who journaled every single day. She visualized her dream life in vivid detail. She repeated affirmations until her throat went dry. She did everything the books told her to do, and still, nothing changed. Not one thing. One day, she stopped everything. She just sat in complete silence. And for the first time in years, she felt how much of her life was being run by a part of her that was simply afraid to be still, afraid to stop moving, afraid to feel what was underneath all the doing. That's when the tears came. That's when her body finally softened. That's when something deep inside her shifted. She didn't manifest her dream the next day. But what she did do was collapse a loop that had been running for decades. And that collapse created space. Space for something entirely new to enter. Now let me ask you something. What if your biggest breakthrough isn't something you need to add to your life, but something you finally need to stop repeating? Don't answer yet. Because in the next part, we're going to reveal where those loops are actually stored, why they keep regenerating themselves, even when you think you've moved past them, and how to rewrite them at the source, not in your mind, but in the field itself. Wait until you see how deep this really goes. There's a blueprint beneath your thoughts, a silent code that's etched not in your DNA, but in something far more malleable, far more responsive, the field. This field is not a metaphor. It's not poetic language for some abstract spiritual concept. It's the measurable, testable quantum field of energy and information that permeates absolutely everything, including you. But most people are completely unaware that their entire life, their patterns, their emotions, their relationships, their finances, their health, all of it is being orchestrated not by their conscious desires, but by the vibrational blueprint they've unknowingly downloaded into this field. Think of it like this. You're walking through a room filled with mirrors, but these mirrors aren't reflecting your physical appearance. They're reflecting your state, your subconscious programs, your core frequency. And every single event in your life is just one of those mirrors showing you something you've been broadcasting all along. Bruce Lipton calls this the biology of belief. Amit Goswami calls it the primacy of consciousness. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it reconditioning the body to a new mind. But it all points to the same fundamental truth. Reality is not responding to what you consciously want. It's responding to what you unconsciously expect. And those expectations, they're encoded in the field as vibrational patterns. Now, here's where things get quantum. Every single cell in your body communicates through electrical signals. Your heart generates the most powerful electromagnetic field in your entire body, and it broadcasts emotional information into the space around you. This is not metaphor. This is measurable science. The HeartMath Institute has shown that your heart's rhythm literally affects the coherence of your brain, your nervous system, and most importantly, your interaction with the environment around you. So ask yourself right now, what's your heart broadcasting every morning when you wake up? What emotional signature is it sending out into the field? Because here's the hidden mechanism most people never understand. The field records your repeated emotional states, especially those charged with high energy, fear, grief, shame, longing, resentment. Over time, those emotions form stable vibrational signatures, and once those signatures become stable, they begin forming loops. These loops act like energetic scripts, autopilot programs that keep pulling similar events into your experience, not because you're cursed, not because you're unlucky, but because the field is simply obeying your last clear set of instructions. But the real mystery is this: where are these instructions actually coming from? Let's go back to the beginning. Your beginning. From the last trimester in the womb until around age 7, your brain was operating in theta state. That's the same brainwave frequency that's accessed during hypnosis. This means that during your early years, you were not reasoning. You were not analyzing. You were not filtering information. You were absorbing everything: emotional states, belief systems, energetic dynamics from your parents, your caretakers, your environment. This becomes the original imprint, the foundational code. And once that imprint gets installed in your system, your subconscious mind begins projecting it onto reality, and the field begins mirroring it back to you. So now, decades later, you might be a fully grown adult with dreams of abundance, freedom, and deep love. But if your energetic blueprint says love means abandonment, or money comes with suffering, or I must constantly earn my worth, then guess what? The field will respond accordingly. Because the field doesn't hear your words. It doesn't decode what you consciously want. It hears your frequency. It obeys your dominant vibration. And your vibration is the result of your inner state, not your outer affirmations. This is why repeating affirmations without actually shifting the internal blueprint often leads to frustration and disappointment. It's not that affirmations don't work. It's that your field doesn't recognize them as coherent. There's no real energetic signature behind them. You're saying out loud, "I am worthy," while your nervous system is screaming underneath, "I'm not safe." That contradiction creates noise, static. And noise doesn't collapse quantum waves. It just echoes in the void. But here's the opening. Here's the invitation. The field is not fixed. It's responsive. It's intelligent. It's waiting. And once you shift the source code, your core vibration, the entire mirror, begins reflecting something else. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine your life as a song playing on a loop. You hear the same verse every day, the same chorus, the same bridge. You get tired of it. You desperately want it to change. You try to change the lyrics, but nothing shifts. Why? Because the melody is still embedded in the track. To truly change the song, you have to go back to the mixing board, to the frequency base, and remix the energy that created it in the first place. That's what this work is actually about. This is not about fixing symptoms on the surface. It's about rewiring the frequency that keeps generating those symptoms. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this with stunning clarity. He says that if your personal reality is a reflection of your personality, then to change your life, you must change your personality. meaning your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, and most crucially, your energy signature. This is not just a self-help concept. This is a quantum principle. The observer, that's you, collapses reality not with thoughts alone, but with emotionally charged awareness. And here's where it gets interesting. Most people were programmed into fear, shame, guilt, and limitation without even knowing it. They were unconsciously manipulated into loops through emotional reinforcement that happened when they were too young to question it. But what if you could reverse engineer that process? What if you could deliberately charge your body with elevated states? Not fake joy, not toxic positivity, but real, embodied gratitude, elevated presence, a deep sense of enoughness that vibrates in your cells, not just in your affirmations. You'd be rewriting the field, not with force, but with coherence, because coherence is the secret language of the quantum field. And incoherence, even if it's dressed up as hustle, grind, or positive mindset, is still a repellent signal. In the comments right now, drop one word that represents the old pattern you're ready to release. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's lack, maybe it's silence. Whatever it is, call it out. Not for me, but for you. Because naming the pattern is the first step in dissolving it. So what's the next step? In the next part, we'll go deeper into the observer effect, how your very attention determines what manifests in your life, and how observing reality through the lens of old trauma keeps collapsing the same version of reality over and over again. But what if there was a way to observe differently? To tune your attention like a laser and collapse new potential into form? It's not only possible, it's scientific, and it's coming next. What you observe becomes real, but not because reality is just sitting there waiting for you to look at it. It becomes real because your observation is not passive, it's participatory. Your gaze doesn't just register the world around you, it literally builds it. This isn't spiritual poetry. This is quantum physics. According to the observer effect, particles, the very building blocks of everything in existence, exist only as probabilities until someone observes them. The moment they're observed, they collapse into a fixed state, a definite reality. Now apply that principle to your life. Every morning you wake up and look at your world. And by the way you observe it, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your expectations, you collapse it into a specific pattern, and then you wonder why nothing ever changes. But here's the real trap. You're not just observing the world, you're observing it through a lens. And that lens was built long before you even knew you were holding it. Let's break this down. Your attention is like a spotlight. Wherever you place it, you energize, you amplify. But what most people don't realize is that attention is not neutral. It carries the frequency of the observer, which means if you're observing your bank account through the lens of scarcity, you're not just seeing low numbers, you're feeding the field with scarcity. And that frequency reinforces the same collapse. You're not just seeing what is, you're projecting what has been. Every fear-charged glance, every worry-soaked thought, every doubtful analysis, they all act like quantum commands saying, "More of this, please." Let's pause here because this is subtle and it's dangerous. The reason change feels impossible for so many people isn't because they're lazy, broken, or undisciplined. It's because they're locked inside a feedback loop where their inner state creates their perception, and that perception reinforces their inner state. It's a quantum echo chamber. You feel insecure, so you notice rejection everywhere. You feel unworthy, so you attract situations that belittle you. You expect delay, so time seems to slow down in the exact places you need it to move forward. And here's the cruel twist. Each of those observations feels like evidence, hard proof. But the evidence is only appearing because of the frequency you're collapsing into form. This is the observer trap, and it runs deeper than most people think, because your attention is being stolen every single day. hijacked by unresolved trauma, by cultural programming, by digital noise, by internal narratives that don't even belong to you anymore. Every time you try to focus on something new, something pulls you back into the familiar loop. Your nervous system resists new frequencies, not because they're wrong, but because they're unknown. And the unknown, to the survival brain, feels like death. This is why you can visualize something new and beautiful and still collapse something old and familiar, because your attention might be pointing forward, but your frequency is still facing backward. Let's use a metaphor. Imagine you're a painter. Each morning you arrive at your canvas with fresh brushes, new colors, and a vision of something breathtaking. But there's a fogged glass sitting in front of the canvas, and you don't realize that your hands are tracing the same old outlines day after day because that's all you can see through the fog. The fog is your subconscious programming. The outline is your vibrational history, and the painting, it's your life, stuck in repetition. Now here's the key insight. Your attention is not just a spotlight, it's a scalpel. Where you place it and how you place it literally carves the wave of infinite probability into one finite result. Which leads us to a powerful truth. If you want to collapse a new reality into your life, you can't just change what you look at. You have to change how you're looking and from where you're looking. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that when your attention is rooted in survival, in the lower centers of fight, flight, control, and predict, your focus becomes narrow. You scan for threats. You seek certainty. You collapse the safest, most familiar version of the world, which just so happens to be the version you've already lived 1,000 times. But when you move your attention into the heart, into coherence, into the observer, beyond identity, you open the lens. You begin to see what else is possible. You stop collapsing the same predictable outcomes, and you start attracting the unexpected, not through effort, through elevated observation. Let's be clear about this. The field doesn't give you what you look at. It gives you what you become while you're looking. If you become lack while looking at your desires, it reflects scarcity. If you become fear while visualizing your future, it reflects limitation. But if you become gratitude, the feeling of already having, it reflects the match. You've heard the phrase, what you focus on expands. But that's incomplete. What you focus on with emotional coherence manifests. Which means your real work is not controlling what shows up in your life. It's controlling how you show up as the observer. This is where spiritual practice meets scientific method. This is why meditation, breathwork, presence, and elevated emotion are not just self-care routines. They're quantum tools. They train your attention to stop collapsing recycled timelines and start accessing the unknown. But here's the final piece, the one most people miss completely. The observer is not your mind. It's not the thinking version of you. It's the aware you, the you beneath the program, the witness behind the thoughts. That version of you is timeless, neutral, powerful. And when you rest in that seat, even for just a moment, the entire vibrational frequency of your observation changes. You no longer collapse reality from fear. You collapse it from alignment. And alignment pulls different threads from the quantum soup. So let me ask you something. And don't rush to answer yet. What would happen if you stopped using your attention to scan for threats and started using it to tune into possibilities? What if your gaze wasn't reactive anymore, but creative? What if your attention became a tuning fork, vibrating with the version of you who's already living the life you desire? That's not magic. That's quantum mechanics in action. And it's the doorway to the shift. Because in the next part, we're going to explore that doorway fully. And for the first time, you'll understand how to shift timelines, not by effort, but by stopping the energy that feeds the loop. Wait until you feel what happens when you stop energizing what no longer serves you. There is a moment, brief, silent, nearly invisible, when the loop loses its power, not because you fought it, not because you conquered it, but because you simply stopped feeding it. The energy stopped flowing. The story lost its charge, and in that precise instant, something ancient begins to unravel, like a frequency finally breaking apart under the pressure of your awareness. Every loop you've ever lived has one thing in common. It needs your energy to survive. It needs your reaction, your agreement, your identification. Without that, it collapses. Not overnight, not always dramatically, but subtly, like a thread pulled loose in a tightly wound knot. And here's the truth no one told you growing up. You are not trapped in your life. You are entangled with it. And entanglement, as quantum physics shows us, can be altered when coherence shifts. Let's break this down through vibration. Every thought, every emotion, every reaction emits a measurable frequency. When that frequency is repeated over time, it becomes a field pattern. Like grooves carved into a vinyl record, the needle, which is your consciousness, drops into that groove and plays the same song over and over again. But here's the secret. You are not the needle. You are the hand that holds it. The moment you stop reacting, the needle lifts, the groove loses momentum, and the timeline that was being reinforced begins to fade. This is how quantum shifts happen, not through force, but through frequency starvation. But the mind resists this idea. It screams at you, do something, fix this, make it happen. And that's exactly how the loop keeps winning, because doing is not always the answer, especially when it's coming from a place of incoherence. In fact, most doing in the modern world is just a distraction from feeling. People don't want to sit with the energy of the loop, so they move. They hustle, they perform, they chase, and in doing so, they re-energize the very pattern they were trying to escape. Let me tell you a story. A man had been trying to manifest a breakthrough for years. A new job, financial freedom, inner peace. He meditated, he visualized, he made vision boards. He did all the things. Nothing shifted. One night, he had a panic attack. Instead of resisting it like he always did, he sat completely still. He did nothing. For the first time in his life, he didn't try to fix his state. He simply allowed it. He let it be. And in that raw surrender, he stopped feeding the loop of resistance. What followed wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a sudden miracle. It was stillness. Then, clarity. Then, the next day, a completely unexpected phone call changed the entire direction of his life. Why? Because his signal changed. Not by trying to create the future, but by refusing to energize the past. This is the core principle of quantum timeline shifting. When the emotional signal ceases, the quantum match disappears. No signal, no feedback, no loop. Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches that elevated emotions like gratitude, love, and inspiration collapse higher-order possibilities. But you can't reach those emotions while you're still holding on to a lower-frequency loop. You have to let it decompose, and decomposition requires silence, stillness, space, the willingness to not feed what feels familiar. But how do you do that in practice? Start here. Become aware of what triggers you into the loop, the person, the memory, the fear, the thought. Then pause, drop into your body. Feel the emotion fully, and instead of reacting to it, just breathe. Let the emotion rise without attaching a story to it, without trying to fix it, without trying to change it. What happens next is subtle but profound. The emotion loses its story. The story loses its charge. The charge loses its coherence. And suddenly, you're no longer vibrating in alignment with that timeline. It's like changing the channel on an old radio. You don't destroy the old station, you just stop tuning into it. And your reality, being a vibrational mirror, has no choice but to reflect the new signal. Here's a powerful metaphor. Imagine you're feeding a wolf every day at the edge of a forest. The wolf becomes strong, dominant, predictable. One day, you stop feeding it. It howls. It scratches at your door. It returns the next morning expecting food. But still, you offer nothing. After a few days, the wolf doesn't die, but it wanders. It fades into the trees. It stops dictating your path. Your loop is that wolf, and your energy is the food. Now comes the beautiful paradox. You don't have to know exactly what timeline you're shifting into. You just have to stop feeding the one you're currently entangled with. Because the quantum field doesn't need you to figure everything out. It needs you to become available, to empty the old signal so something new can enter. But here's where most people give up. The silence between loops feels like death. That void, that space where the old pattern is fading but the new hasn't arrived yet, is terrifying to the ego. And so people rush back to the familiar. They reattach. They feed the loop one more time just to feel something, just to have the comfort of the known. But that's not you anymore. You've seen too much. You've felt the pattern. You know the cost. So today, right now, let's create a shift, not just in information, but in frequency. In the comments, type this: I bring my energy to a new timeline. Let that be your signal. Let it echo into the field. Let it be the moment the loop starts to unravel. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like this makes sense, if a part of you is realizing your own power right now, hit subscribe and click the bell icon next to it. Also, join our manifestation club on gogetter.au. Join the movement. Become part of a global space where we explore the art of conscious creation, quantum alignment, and embodied manifestation. This isn't just a channel. This is a frequency. If you felt a nudge while watching, you're already tuned in. Because in the next part, we go beyond neutrality. We step into intentional coherence. We stop being reactive observers and become living transmitters. You are not here to observe the new timeline. You are here to become it. Most people think the universe is listening, that the field is some kind of cosmic delivery service waiting for your order to ship your desires into physical form. But what they don't realize is the field doesn't respond to requests. It doesn't hear what you say. It doesn't decode what you want. It mirrors what you are. And that changes everything. Because if you are the signal, not the receiver, not the antenna, not the speaker, but the actual broadcast itself, then every outcome, every synchronicity, every closed door or divine alignment is not about destiny. It's about resonance. So here's the truth. Most manifestation teachings never tell you. You don't attract what you wish for. You attract what you've become coherent with. And coherence, vibrational, emotional, energetic, is not something you fake. It's something you live. Now let's bring in the science. Everything in the universe vibrates. Atoms, cells, thoughts, even emotions. But vibration alone isn't enough. It's coherence, the harmony and synchronization of those vibrations that produces powerful, stable energy fields. Think of a laser. It's not just light. It's focused, coherent light. And that coherence gives it the power to cut through steel. Your consciousness works the same way. When your heart and brain are in coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and body are aligned in the same frequency, your signal becomes potent, magnetic, laser-like. You're no longer just a person with good intentions. You're a walking transmission tower of vibrational clarity, and the field cannot help but respond. But here's where it gets real. You can't reach coherence by accident. You reach it by embodiment. By becoming the version of you who already lives what you desire. Not later, not someday, but now. That means speaking like them, walking like them, feeling like them, making decisions from their state of being, even if the evidence hasn't caught up yet. Because the field doesn't work on evidence, it works on instruction. And the most powerful instruction you can send is your state. You want deep love? Then you must become the frequency of being already loved. Not because someone told you you're worthy, but because your nervous system feels it as a fact. You emanate security. You walk as love, and the field reflects the match. You want freedom? Then you must walk through your day with the energy of expansion, not waiting for circumstances to give you permission, but moving as if freedom is your birthright, encoded in every step you take. Because here's the quantum truth. The field is not a judge, it's a mirror. And mirrors don't argue, they don't edit, they don't delay. They reflect whatever stands in front of them. So if you're holding back your frequency, waiting for evidence first, you're collapsing the wrong wave. You're activating delay, reinforcing lack, affirming that you don't have it yet. And that gap becomes your reality. But when you collapse time, when you become the frequency first, then time obeys you. Reality begins to bend. You meet people you couldn't have planned for. Opportunities arrive without explanation. Doors open without effort, not because you're lucky, but because you've become coherent with the version of life you asked for. Let's bring in a metaphor. Imagine you're tuning a radio. Each frequency band contains a different song. You can want to hear jazz. You can beg for jazz. You can visualize saxophones. You can close your eyes and repeat, "Jazz is mine." But unless you dial into 103.7, you're still going to hear static, or worse, the wrong station entirely. Desire is not enough. Alignment is the dial. And what most people call waiting is actually misalignment. They're sitting on 89.5, hoping for 103.7 to show up. But it can't. Not because the universe is cruel, but because that's not how vibration works. This is where we stop being passive creators. This is where we stop asking and start tuning. So how do you do it? First, stop chasing outcomes. Chase states. Outcomes are effects. States are causes. Instead of asking, "How can I get this?" ask, "How would it feel to already be that version of me?" Then, saturate your field with that feeling. Morning, night, in the gaps between tasks. Breathe it. Speak from it. Move as it. This is not pretending. It's practicing a new signal. And just like a muscle, coherence strengthens with repetition. Here's what Neville Goddard meant when he said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." He didn't mean to fake it. He meant to become so vibrationally identical to the version of you that has it, that the field can't tell the difference. And when the field can't tell the difference, it aligns. Not gradually, instantly. Even if the result takes time to materialize in physical form, the shift is already in motion the moment you become coherent. So now, let me offer a gentle disruption. What if the field is not out there at all? What if you are the field, localized in a body, playing a specific frequency to experience a specific reality? Then the real shift is not external. It's internal alignment with the infinite version of you that already exists, waiting to be tuned into. In the comments, share one small act you're committing to today, something that anchors you into your new life path. It could be as simple as breathe, or trust, or open. Your word matters. Your act matters. Because you matter. And that's where we go next. In the final part, we'll bring all this together. Not as theory, not as concept, but as a lived reality. You'll understand how to stay out of the loop, how to sustain the shift, and how to embody a new quantum identity that the old you can no longer contain. You're not waiting for the signal. You've always been the signal. There's a moment in every shift, a silent crossroads, where you face the ultimate test. Will you collapse back into the known, or will you expand into the unknown? Because here's the most difficult truth about transformation. Your old loop is not just a pattern, it's an identity. And letting go of it means letting go of who you thought you were. That's why most people relapse. Not because they don't want the new reality, but because they don't know how to live without the old one. The pain was familiar. The chaos was predictable. The survival strategies were rehearsed 1,000 times. Even suffering has a strange comfort when you've made it part of your personality. But here's what the quantum field invites us to understand and live. You don't need to fix the old identity. You need to dissolve your resonance with it, and that only happens through embodiment. Sustained embodiment, not just tuning into a higher frequency for a few minutes during meditation, but living from it, speaking from it, making decisions as if you were already inside the new timeline. Because in truth, you are. The shift is already happening. The new self has already broadcast its signal. The question is, will you stabilize that frequency long enough for reality to reorganize around it? Because the loop, that old, sticky, seductive version of life, will keep calling you back. It will whisper your name in moments of doubt. It will dress itself up in urgency, in logic, in old desires disguised as new needs. And if you're not grounded in your new identity, you'll answer the call. You'll return to the past thinking you're being practical, when in truth, you're just collapsing a familiar wave. But you don't have to go back. Because once you've touched coherence, once your body knows how freedom feels, how power moves, how peace breathes, it's almost impossible to pretend you don't know. You've already rewritten the frequency. The signal has changed, and the field remembers. This is the quantum exit. Not an escape, not a fight, but a transcendence. A shift in resonance from the vibration of reaction to the vibration of creation. It's what Neville Goddard meant when he said, "Change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was articulating a quantum fact. When your internal signature no longer matches your old world, the old world dissolves. Not because it's punished, but because it's no longer entangled with you. So how do you stay out of the loop for good? You stay out by remembering that you are the field. You are not in the field hoping it gives you something. You are the embodied extension of pure potential. And your state, your attention, your coherence, your choices, these are the tools of reality design. You stay out by choosing the unknown again and again, not as risk, but as home, by allowing discomfort without collapsing into it, by leading with gratitude even when your senses scream for evidence, by understanding that spiritual maturity means not needing proof to become the proof. You stay out by making the inner state non-negotiable, by anchoring into breath, into presence, into awareness when the loop tries to pull you back in, and most of all, by never negotiating your frequency for the comfort of your past self. Because the quantum field doesn't respond to effort, it responds to embodied truth. And your truth is not small. Your truth is not repetitive. Your truth is not a loop. It's a signal calling reality into coherence with the masterpiece you're now living. And if you felt the shift during this journey, even for just a moment, then you already know there's no going back. Only inward, only deeper, only higher. Now, if this resonated with you and you're ready to not just understand but fully embody this new way of being, I want to offer something that's helped many people take this transformation from concept to lived experience. It's an ebook called Awaken Your Quantum Power. It's a tool, a next step, a deeper activation of everything you've just experienced here. Inside, you'll explore how to structure your day, your energy, your decisions around quantum embodiment, with powerful practices to align, stabilize, and expand your signal. The link is in the pinned comment below. You'll know if it's for you because your frequency will tell you. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. You might just be a blessing in disguise for them. For you, it may be just sharing, but for someone in need, it may mean a life. And their gratitude will increase the positivity flowing back to you. Be the friend who shares breakthroughs, not just memes. Share this with someone who's stuck. Real ones share value. Pass this on if you're that kind of human. And remember this, you are not manifesting a new reality. You are remembering who you are in the field and collapsing everything that doesn't belong in your next timeline. Welcome to the shift. And we're just getting started.